Welcome back to Yaffee Live Talk Radio 102.3, live and local now, live and local all day long. And it's Thursday. That means we speak with Brandon Lewis, who is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. You can always read his stuff, the latest news about what's going on in the General Assembly at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Brandon, how are you today, sir?
Man, I'm awesome. Glad to be back here.
So I was just thinking as well, you did push record, right, on the video? I know one time we forgot
Oh my
that.
God. We just need to go ahead and do it now. I'm glad. No, it's recording already. See, it's
Okay.
set up to pre-record. What is it? Be smart while you are smart.
Okay, I'll just check it. Just check it. All right. So one thing I do want to talk about here is you have a story about how bills on LGBT interest, prayer in schools, and penalties for abortion pills, they're all making significant progress in the Tennessee legislature.
Oh yeah. So this has gotten people up in arms, and there's quite a few here. The first one is essentially that if you, as an individual or an organization, don't want to recognize or participate in a same-sex marriage in Tennessee, you don't have to. And I think everyone can agree that people in their private life with freedom of association should be able to do that. Another one is banning the Bostock Act, and that challenges the Supreme Court ruling that had made sexual orientation and other ideologies, protected under discrimination laws. A couple others, No Pride Flag Month Act, that's HB 1474, essentially just means that when you send your kids to these government schools, that at least there's not a pride flag in there. Now they may be still being taught this stuff. We had an indication of a teacher, I think that was up in the Nashville area recently, were reported on that was threatened with termination because he wouldn't read one of these books to young children, felt uncomfortable with it in the school. Another one that's protecting religious liberty and expression in public school act would basically make sure that staff and students have a time to do voluntary prayer or religious text readings. And finally, there's another one that increases civil liabilities for abortion bill providers. And so these are all things that orient and kind of turn around things that conservatives care about. And you won't find these stories, as you've previously mentioned, in a lot of news outlets because
Right.
they don't want you to know that they're going through it, but they're being presented. And if they are being written about, they're being written about in a negative light.
Yeah, by the way, I feel like every time you and I do one of these segments, it's like you trying to talk me into future homeschool for my kids or
True.
or private school. You're really good at it. You're really good at trying to talk me into it.
It's, I just deliver the news. I mean, the thing is, like, if it's just anytime you see these laws having to be passed to take this garbage out of school, it just means that it's in there, right?
Yeah.
And so, if you're going to, I guess, get dog food or cat food for your cat, and they had to pass a law to make sure that a certain brand took the feces out of it, you'd be like, wow. So it's in there now.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, if it's in there now, maybe we don't buy that brand. And so many of these laws are constantly trying to mitigate, pull out these things in schools that why are they there in the first place? It's typically if you had an option, and you just didn't have a choice of where you were zoned, you'd be like, I don't think that's for me. But for some reason, we look at government schools in a different lens than we do other services provided that aren't governmental. So it's kind of curious to me.
Yeah, and I know there was another bill, and this wasn't in your story, but there was another bill about possibly, teaching biblical stories from a historical context or something. And I know people are probably outraged by that, or allowing the Ten Commandments to be displayed, but from a historical context. And to me, it's like, so much of our society is based on that tradition. And the fact that we don't really teach it at all, even in history or literature, it's kind of a problem. Even if you're not a Christian, I feel like you should be able to understand that.
Well, it's crazy. You look around, like we're in the most opulent, successful nation that the earth has ever seen. And the foundational documents were primarily twofold for the founding fathers. The first, maybe three. The first was and the most cited is scriptural. The second is classic Roman and Greek literature,
Mhm.
and the third would probably be a distant third, are a lot of the writings that took place in the French Revolution, which turned out to ultimately fail. But those are the three main bodies of work that our founders pulled from. And so when you look around at this government that has produced so much opulence for so long, it only makes sense to look at the historical context of why. But, people
Right.
don't give a rip about history. Let's just be frank with it. The older
Yeah.
I get, the more I learn that people do not want to crack a book or think real hard. And so I often think that getting people to be interested in history is a fool's errand, but it has served me well, if nothing else.
I mean, I love it. So I love it. So there you go. Um, got another story here. Senator Marsha Blackburn says that ICE has ended plans for a Wilson County illegal alien detention center. I know there was some controversy over this, how it affected the local area. Any thoughts on this story?
Well, it's one of those situations. It's kind of like a garbage dump. We need them,
Mhm.
but nobody wants them anywhere near them. And you see this with all kinds of facilities that are going to be put in communities. And so we certainly do need detention centers for these individuals. But obviously, the individuals that are organized and can make enough racket have gotten ahead of this. I mean, ultimately, they'll likely find some place to put it, but apparently it's not going to be in Wilson County. And so all of the local elected officials, everybody on the commission, in unison, just basically stood up and said, we don't want it in our backyard, and it's not going to happen now. But, it begs the question, we don't want it here. We know that it's necessary. So who's going to get, who's going to have the luxury of having it there? And it's likely going to be probably some county somewhere that has a very limited population. But then you get into the issue of transportation, right? We can put this
Mhm.
out in the middle of nowhere, but now how much is it going to cost to get rolled far away from a main artery for transporting? So we'll see
And
how the
workers.
federal
I mean, you need
government.
people to work there
Yeah,
too.
it
Yeah.
absolutely. You need people to work. And so we'll see how that pans out. Hopefully, they can find a location for that because obviously, if we're getting the worst of the worst off the street, we have to have a place to temporarily house them until we can get them out of the country.
That kind of reminds me, I don't know if you got a chance to watch the State of the Union address. Senator Trump talked a lot about immigration, ICE, everything else. Did you watch it? And if you did, give him a letter grade. What would you grade the speech?
Well, I thought it was pretty good. I wish they would almost go back to the hand delivering a written message of the State of the
I told
Union.
him to
That
do it
like
on
the
Truth
whole,
Social. I wanted him
yeah,
to do just a bunch of posts on Truth Social. We could just end it
there
that
you
way.
go. So I don't know. It's just as bad both ways every year. And I'm not saying I prefer to obviously hear a conservative talk than the Democrat when they're in power, but it's amazing to me because to see the Democrats, I think the optics were pretty bad when they wouldn't stand up for the victims of illegal aliens and they wouldn't stand up for the fact that we're here to serve citizens and not people that have broken our laws in the country. However, you have told me over and over again that these stories that we report on in Tennessee, like we're the only publication that carries them. I had my landscaper out here text message me. He said, I've been following your news outlet, and it's like the most informative thing that I've
Yeah.
ever found for local government. And people ask, like, how can you do this when the other media outlets can't? And it's because our money comes from subscribers. As soon as we start taking corporate PAC and Rhino politician money, we have to edit our editorial content. I don't take any money from it. So, one thing that we had talked about previously, guys, if you're out there, if you subscribe to our publication and you want us to have at least one conservative news outlet in Tennessee, we're in the middle of a fundraising push. So go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com. You can hit that support button and you can mail your checks to P.O. Box 625, Signal Mountain, Tennessee 37377. So if you appreciate our reporting, if you want to see us continue as the only subscriber supported conservative publication in the state, we're burning through resources rapidly in the legislative session and need your help.
Yeah. And just, I know you said this, but to repeat this, you're not really making any money off of it yourself. And it's actually free to subscribe. It's just you accept donations. Am I right on that?
Absolutely. And, basically what we have, and I make my money as a business consultant, and it's more than enough for me to live off of. I'm debt free and all that stuff. But it wouldn't pay for me to take a paycheck out of it. Like the thing we pay for the reporters, we pay for the overhead. I look at it
Mhm.
as like a civic project that I do, like a non-profit, a for-profit, no profit. And so I run it that way, but I can't put any more of my personal money into it. I'm still probably 120 grand in the hole on the publication when I founded it in 2020. But as long as it runs based on subscriber giving, we'll keep it up and going. And again, that's why we're able to tell the truth. If you're The truth is always connected to money, and lies are always connected to money. And the reason that we have been able to tell the truth is because our money comes from, little old ladies out in Pickens County that are sending in, $10 checks every once in a while, and then we have a few generous donors. So that's what keeps it afloat.
All right, so I'll have to remind people of that as well. Yes, TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Subscribe, and they're having a big fundraising push, and that's how it runs. And you're right. A lot of these stories, no one else covers it. And I was talking with Olivia Lupia last week when she was filling in for you, and she says, part of her job is literally to sit there and listen to committee hearings. And I'm like, we need her to do that because I don't want to do that. I have no desire to do that myself. So we need her to do that, but she
No,
needs support.
nobody wants to do that, and frankly, we probably need to figure out how AI could assist Olivia in doing that, just to cut through all the shenanigans. But nonetheless, yes, it is.
Right.
It is next to watching paint dry. It's probably the most exciting thing you can do. But it's,
So,
we live under these laws, so we got to watch it. So what next
yeah.
story before we've stayed too long on this. Let's get another one in.
Well, yeah, and this is a big story that you've covered a lot. We've talked a lot about, at least this, surrounding this story. Bill requiring party registration for Tennessee elections has advanced in the House. So this has kind of been
Oh
a big issue for
yes.
you.
Yeah, 5 years of just trying to get Republicans to only let Republicans vote in Republican primaries. And finally, the rhino resistance seems to be falling down, although Dave Wright, who is a Republican, voted against it because he thinks Democrats should be voting in Republican primaries.
Mhm.
But he's been a rhino from the very beginning. Like his face is
Needs the
almost
Democrat
etched.
votes, then it sounds like.
Yeah, he voted with the only other Democrat, Jason Powell. And so maybe Dave should just run as an independent or a Democrat might be better. But House Bill 1159 calls for the creation of a process that requires voters to select an official party affiliation. And if you did not select one, you would be unaffiliated, which means you couldn't vote in the primary. And Lynn's office informed the Tennessee Conservative, who's carrying that bill, and they're also carrying Chris Todd's House bill, which is a little stronger, HB 0886. So we've got two of these bills running through the House, and we'll see which one the Senate picks up. But it did get out of the House Elections Campaign Finance Committee 5-2, again, with Dave Wright voting with the Democrat. The reason that rhinos have always opposed this for 5 years, despite it being a 90+% issue, is because a lot of these elections are won by like 5, 6, 700 votes,
Hmm.
300 votes, and you start pulling the list, and what you see is that these people that are on the list have voted in every Democrat presidential primary, and then all of a sudden they vote Republican in the state Republican primary for a state rep, state
Yep.
senator, county mayor, and it's very obvious what's going on, but we don't have any enforcement mechanism in Tennessee. And this party registration will basically mean that before you vote, you have got to pick the party you're going to vote in. And I think that'll essentially eliminate that, or reduce it to the point where there won't be very much of it.
Yeah, this is always a big problem in deep red states because what you said, they'll vote in the presidential primary for a Democrat, but when your local representatives usually dominate Republican, they want to screw up what Republican means, so they end up switching parties and voting Republican in the primary, which is always kind of
Yeah,
the problem there.
yeah, they
And
pick the biggest rhino they can vote for, and they go vote for him. And rhinos need those Democrat votes. They
yep.
desperately need them because they're usually, even with all the money and PAC and special interest, often they get knocked off their perch. And this is going to make it just that much easier for conservatives to actually win primaries. So I'm excited to see this happen. This has been a 5+ year push. Actually, it's been like almost like a 15 to 20 year push.
Hmm.
But my direct involvement, and we've watched this thing fail over and over again. But the Senate is less conservative than the House, so we've got an uphill battle there, and we're going to make sure we track it as it goes through the Senate.
Brandon Lewis is with the Tennessee Conservative. Don't forget to subscribe. It's free to subscribe, but they need your support. So make sure to donate so they can keep reporting on the news like this. Bill, Brandon, really appreciate you coming on. As always, my friend, we'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you, Yaffee. And hey, we're excited. We've got a bundle of joy coming down the road here soon, Yaffee. So, gird
Oh,
your
yeah.
loins, get prepared, get prepared.
Yeah,
And
I don't know.
maybe bring some baby pictures next time we do the Zoom. People need to see these tater tots.
Okay, yeah. People say, "Are you ready?" And I'm like, "No, I don't." I mean, I guess I really said that more the first time. People are like, "Are you ready?" I'm like, "I've never done this before. I don't know. I'm as ready as I can be, I guess." But all right, Brandon, I appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
Take care, Yaffee.